talk a little bit about interface policies and some of the management protocols that we can use within ACI. And we're going to go through these in a little bit more detail when we go through the demo, because as we look specifically at these interface policies, there's a lot of little settings within those that I'm not just going to cover here. I'd rather get in there and show you exactly what comprises each of these policies and explain it that way. But at a high level, what we're going to find is that within ACI, we have the ability to fine-tune things. Like, what is our, if we look down through here, let me kind of highlight, grab my pen. If we look down through here, this is all going to be done under our fabric and then our access policies. And then if you look down through there, you're going to see things like switch policies, you're going to see interface policies, and we're right now talking about some of these things under interface policies and specifically policies. So these components here, which ACI refers to as policies, are kind of going to be what comprise a later topic, which are called interface policy groups, or as I just call them for short, IPGs. So these things are what are the characteristics of our individual ports, okay? So we're going to see things like a link level policy, which we see right here. This is going to be, we can come in here, we can tell it to negotiate or not auto negotiate. We could set the speed, so if we know we're going to have a static 10 gig or a static 1 gig connection, we can do that from within here. Okay, and typically I'll go in there and I'll set some up ahead of time. Usually when I configure ACI, one of the first things I do, after I get all the general stuff out of the way, is I go in here and just knock out all these policies. Because again, within ACI, we're leveraging, it's kind of like templates within UCS, it's reusable objects that we can use over and over and over again. So if you set these up the first time, you can just come back later when you're building a new interface policy group and you can just pull these out without having to go in there and go, oh, you know what, I didn't do a 1 gig policy, I need to go do that. Just do it from the get-go, and you'll get the gist of it. If you do ACI a couple times, you'll be like, oh, I just go in there and I'll knock out, I'll do a link level policy for 10 gig and 1 gig. Maybe I'll do 2 CDP policies, and this is Cisco Discovery Protocol, and I'll usually do one that's called CDP on and another that's called CDP off. Again, they have default policies in there built for us. If you know what the default is, I mean, it's fairly easy to check out once you're in there, but if you know what the default is, you can just leverage the default. Like, for instance, the default CDP policy is off. So you could just build a CDP on policy and you'd have one for both already. Same thing for LLDP. You're going to be able to control the transmit and the receive side properties. So again, I typically will build 4 LLDP policies. I'll do transmit and receive on, transmit and receive off, transmit on, receive off, transmit off, receive on. So I'll build 4 just right out of the gate that I can leverage. Will you always use them all? Who cares, right? They're there if you need them. And it took us all of 5 seconds to create those individual policies. Port channeling policies, these are pretty cool because we can pre-build policies for like LACP. Again, we're going to be able to leverage active or passive mode for LACP. You can do static, mode on port channels. We'll be able to do MAC pinning. If you guys are used to or have played with the 1000V at all, it's basically the same concept. You can do a port channel on, say, the leaf switch side without having the upstream devices even agnostic that you're doing those. So you could go to 2 separate upstream switches instead of maybe 2 switches that were doing VPC, then you wouldn't have to use MAC pinning. But MAC pinning is available, and typically you'll see that being used from a virtualized side. Port channel member policies, spanning tree interface policies, storm control policies, so you can control storm control parameters, much like we could in NXOS and iOS-based switches. MCP, this is the miscabling protocol. Whoops. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Specifically in regards to, hey, what happens if you connect a leaf to a leaf? What happens if you connect a spine to a spine? What happens if you connect a host to a spine? Again, the miscabling protocol is just an internal protocol that will take care and basically error disable those ports if it detects a miscable. So we have a lot of configuration we can do from an interface perspective, and again, we're typically going to tie these interface policies to an interface policy group. We're also going to see that we can do things like network time. So if you guys are used to NTP, you will have the ability to configure NTP. Very, very important for log retention and log accuracy. So if you have some sort of event within your fabric, you have the ability to go back there and cross-check your logs and have an accurate representation of what time that actually happened. So we'll be able to use in-band or out-of-band. So if you just watched the management video, we have the ability to leverage those in-band and out-of-band management interfaces, basically, or IPs for NTP. Same thing, we also have the ability within here, again, it's kind of similar to what we used within UCS Manager. We can configure DNS or domain name service to basically, if we need to do IP address to host name or host name to IP address resolution, I should say, we have that capability to query some sort of outside DNS server for that resolution.